How vulnerable are you willing to be?
They invite me to come with them into the forest. And we do have to be discerning, right? We have to protect ourselves and take care of ourselves. But I was also learning how to trust my gut. And my gut said go, and so I went with them.
Hey, it's Julie. Welcome to Uncomfy, a show about sticking with moments that challenge us even when they're uncomfortable. And I get it, nobody likes to be uncomfortable. But I've learned from experience, and maybe you have too, that sometimes a little discomfort has benefits if we can stay open and curious about it. And that's what we're here to explore. So let's get uncomfy. I'm joined today by Andrew Forsthoefel. He's an author and a restorative practices consultant for public schools in Maine, where he lives. And get this, in 2011, right after graduating college, he walked across the United States on foot, walked, carrying a sign that said, "Walking to Listen." And Walking to Listen is the name of his memoir. Andrew is with me to share some of the many uncomfy moments that he had on his journey. Welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
What were you thinking when you went on this journey?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking so much as just feeling a call to find out who we really are. And it was through, walking across America. So you can do that a million different ways. Why walk across America? For me, I'm doing this to find out. I'm trying to find out who we are and learn more about how to live this thing we call life. And then eventually over the course of the year, it became clear to me like, oh, right, of course. Like, who am I? This is the reason that I wasn't aware of when I started.
There's a moment in the book early on, you've only been on the road for, I don't know, a couple hours. You haven't gone very far. And somebody shows up. Actually, your mom kind of sent him to
Yeah.
kind of maybe, I don't know, talk you out of this
Yeah.
craziness. Tell us what your conversation with, you call him Bob. What was that
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah, Bob, my mom's landlord. God bless Bob, just looking out for me. He tracked me down maybe a mile down the road. I was actually on these train tracks at the time, and he climbed through the trees and got to the train tracks. I was like, "Oh, Bob, amazing." And I was trying to, like, as soon as I started this walk, I was committed to seeing each and every person as my teacher. So kind of like putting on these goggles of like, I may not initially have thought of you as someone worth listening to or as someone who has something really valuable to share with me, but because I'm wearing these goggles now of walking to listen, I'm now seeing you as a teacher, a prophet, a mentor. And so here comes Bob, and I'm like, okay, Bob, I guess it's you. I guess you're the first one. I'm like, Bob, thanks so much for coming. He goes, don't thank me. Your mom's a wreck back at the house. You don't have to do this. I was like, okay, all right, thanks, Bob. He goes, this is going to be 6 months or 6 days, 6 hours. When I kind of caught that curveball, I was like, thank you, Bob. Like, I am going to do this. He goes, well, here's a knife. Whatever you do, don't trust anybody. And I've received his teachings, his instruction, his gift, and kept going. And in retrospect, just processing it a little bit, it's like, of course, we all have that guy inside us, right? We all have Bob inside us who's giving us a knife saying, don't trust anybody. Look at us. Look what we do to each other. Why would you ever trust anybody, let alone open up to somebody? Like, trust is, sure, keep it transactional, keep it at a distance, but like definitely don't open up and definitely don't put your own vulnerability out there for someone else to exploit. We've all got that guy. So my intention on this walk and my commitment and then my practice was using the different privileges and advantages and resources I had at my disposal to do that often prohibitive act of being the first one to open up. And I was doing that by putting myself out there on the highway and making a statement, being like, yo, I'm out here. I am vulnerable, and I'm doing it for you, to listen to you, and for us, so that we can connect. And yeah, some people got it and some people didn't.
Yeah, tell me about somebody who got it.
Well, just a few miles down the road from Bob, I came across these four men on the train tracks and got a little closer, a little closer. And I started to feel my own fear come up. Just the questions of like, who hangs out on train tracks outside of town, and my whatever assumptions I had there got a little closer. They appear to be Latino men. A little closer. It's four of them. Okay, maybe they're unhoused. There's some boxes lying around with their belongings. Who are these people? And now is the pivotal moment, right? Of like, we can turn our eyes away from the other and move past them as if they don't exist, which is kind of the culture we've created for ourselves here in the society, just like pretend people around you like don't exist. Just keep your head down and keep moving, keep separate, or try to engage. And this was a year of engagement for me. And so I kind of stopped and I was like, hey, and keep in mind, I was wearing like a backpack, a huge backpack with an American flag and an Earth flag. I was wearing a cowboy hat for some reason. I'm definitely not a cowboy, but I was like, you got to look the look. And so I looked weird. I looked bizarre, right? And these guys go like, okay, we're kind of like checking each other out. And I told them what I was doing. I'm walking across America. I felt a little silly saying that because I'd only been walking for like 4 miles, 5 miles at that point, but I pulled that card. And they say something to each other in Spanish, and the one guy reaches into his box and pulls out a package of cookies and a sleeve of apple juice boxes. And I take out my mandolin and play a song for them. It starts raining. They invite me to come with them into the forest. I'm thinking of Bob, don't trust anybody. I got his knife in my pocket. And we do have to be discerning, right? We have to protect ourselves and take care of ourselves. But I was also learning how to trust my gut, and my gut said go, and so I went with them into their home where they'd made little houses out of wood pallets and blue tarps. And Martine took me into his house, and we waited out the rain there together. And then they sent me on their way. And Martine said, as I was leaving, he goes, good luck, God bless, and always sleep with a knife by your side. And I was like, dude, I think you and
Bob's
Bob would
words.
get along. Yeah, exactly. We're all scared of each other for good reasons. So how do we use what resources we have at our disposal? And those could be relationships, it could be practices. How do we use our lives to take a step a little bit closer to each other in the truth and in the vulnerability of the truth? So
Hmm.
I think of those guys. Yeah, just a few miles down the road from Bob.
Yeah. There were people who didn't want to engage or didn't
Yeah.
open up or kind of returned your vulnerability with hostility. So tell me about a situation like that and kind of how you handled it and why it was worth leaning into.
Yeah. I mean, I heard of a thing called rejection therapy where it's like you like intentionally put yourself into situations where you're going to get told no as a form of destigmatizing the experience of encountering a boundary. And so that was a big part of every day. I would sometimes knock on doors at the end of a day to look for a place to camp, and people would say no. Or even walking on the road, like a much simpler moment of like reaching out to like wave to a car as they pass, and like they see me but they don't wave back, and accepting that, understanding I don't know what's going on for them, I don't know what's behind their no, and maybe the worth of my extension has nothing to do with whether it's reciprocated or not. Maybe it's worthy of and on its own because I reached out and I feel good about that, right? And maybe my worth has nothing to do with whether people say yes or no to me. So again, I was learning all that. Um, but I think of one story in particular, and it's a longer story, but I'll give just the quick version of it, which is approaching New Orleans. I'd been told to not walk through New Orleans because of all the dangerous people there, right? So my question was always, is that true? How safe am I to take a risk to find out? Because it's not always prudent, but I decided to make the attempt to walk into New Orleans. And on the outskirts of the city, at the end of a day, I hear this guy shout out from the other side of the road. And I thought he was calling out to me. So I crossed the road to meet him. He was a white guy, middle aged, standing on his stoop. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Andrew. I'm walking across America to listen." And started in Philadelphia. "Oh, Philadelphia. So you're a damn Yankee. Who the F invited you down here?" Go, "Okay. All right. Yeah. No one. And I'll just keep on my merry way." And I go to turn, but I didn't throw it back at him. I stayed in my own center of love, really trying to stay in love, but love also has to take care of itself. And so it's like, okay, I'm gonna walk on. I don't know if it was that or why, but he then kind of reached back out again and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, wait a minute." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You like beer?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You want one?" And I go, "All right, sure." He invites me into his house. He's like, "You got to leave your bag out here because you might have a gun in there, and I don't want you bringing a gun in." So again, okay, this is a vulnerable thing that we're both engaged in here. I'm out here on my own, laying my body on the line in a way, and you're now welcoming me into your home. So this is an exchange of intimacies, and we haven't learned how to really protect and respect vulnerability in our culture and honor it for what it is. So we were just fumbling our way into that with each other in this live moment. And he gets out these beers, we sit down, and he starts sharing with me about his life. And he kind of, it's like a nonstop, it was almost as if he'd been waiting his whole life for someone to actually listen and care enough to share. And then all of a sudden it's this torrent. And most of it was pretty racist and violent and just like stuff that was just hard to listen to, hard to accept. And then there's a question of, well, when do you say something? When do you challenge? So I was imperfectly listening, right? Not always knowing what to say or do all across America, certainly in this moment. And then he starts telling this story. He's like, I was really pissed off that day because I had to bury my son. And so I fought these three guys and one of them walked away with a knife, and it was just this little shining moment of the vulnerability underneath his pain, which led to his racism, his pain, which led to his feeling of all these toxic experiences that he created to pass his pain on. There's pain there, unresolved pain of his son dying. And what I say about it now is like, our pain doesn't justify causing more pain to others, but it explains, at least in part, why we might behave harmfully to other people. And without healing, without the proper resources and relationships to heal that pain, we pass it on. That's just how it works. And so I don't know, what that did for him, but I said eventually, like, I got to get going. It's getting dark. There's a fire station down the road I'm going to. He goes, oh, well, there's a fire station. If they say you can't stay there, then I guess I'll have to put you up here. So you let me know. It's like, okay, thanks, and time to go. And at the end, I go, hey, I realized I didn't get your name. What's your name, man? And his eyes narrow, and he kind of looks at me, kind of back into that fear story. And he goes, my name? My name's Bond. James Bond. I'm like, all right, man. I'll never forget you, James Bond. Yeah. So you just never know what someone's working with.
Hey guys, it's Julie. Just taking a quick break here because I have a special request for you. We want to know more about why you listen to Uncomfy. So there's a short survey in the show notes. And if you click through the link and fill it out, you might be invited to have a longer chat with our team to help us make the show even better. And if you're selected for that conversation, you'll get a $25 Amazon gift card as a thank you for your time. We'd love to talk to you. So thanks for listening. Be sure to fill out that survey. Now back to the show. You said something a moment ago. I think you said we as a society haven't figured out how to protect and respect vulnerability.
Yeah.
What would it look like to be a society that protects and respects vulnerability?
Gosh, I would love to know. I think for one, I don't know what it would look like, but I know we can't get there if we continue to misunderstand vulnerability to be a weakness, something to be ashamed of or embarrassed of, when in fact the opposite is true. Vulnerability and the ability to stand in the truth of your vulnerability is the most powerful thing a person could do. What would be possible if we really were safe to open up? It's not something the world has seen in many places. I mean, I think I'd like to believe that there are some societies and cultures and villages who have found their way there. And there are some, pockets where we're making experiments in that, even in our just personal relationships,
Yeah.
friendships or romantic relationships. Yeah.
Well, this is some of what you, I guess, are aspiring to in these restorative listening
Yeah.
circles that you
Yeah.
do.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll just kind of let people know. They'll have to read your memoir, Walking to
Hmm.
Listen, but 4,000 miles, you actually make it. You did
Hmm.
it. Took you almost
Hmm.
a year.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many pairs of shoes did you have to wear out? Like
I
there's
think
at
it
one
was 5, or was
five.
it 4? I can't even remember at this point.
I don't know. At one point,
Yeah.
you're like pushing your stuff in a baby
Yep.
stroller. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
talk about like a spectacle. But there are really some beautiful stories too of people. I love the story of the truck driver who kind of like adopts you because
Mm.
you're on his route,
Mhm.
for a good chunk of
Mhm.
the time.
Mhm.
Okay, so but now take us then to the work that you're currently doing.
Mhm.
What is a restorative listening circle in a
Yeah.
high school setting?
Yeah. So let's just say first, one of the great gifts of my walk was that I was able to meet and enter into relationship with several indigenous people along the way. So I was welcomed into what I eventually understood was an ancient practice of being in circle together and in ceremony together, listening to each other all night long, sharing honestly and grieving and praising and doing all these things that I had never really seen done before in my life and in my culture. And so the work I do in schools is to create refuge spaces that are circles using simple frameworks that give students and faculty and administrators a chance to be real with each other and to experiment with risking a little bit more of our humanity and to see what happens, and then to know that there's going to be a circle again next week, and I'll get to make another experiment and receive more data from that.
So people come together, you have students who will come together once a week during a
During a
specific time in a
Yep.
study hall or something. You sit
Yes.
together in, I don't know,
Exactly.
the library or whatever the
Yes.
place
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And is there a prompt? Does everyone go around the room and has to share
Yeah.
something, or how does it work?
Yeah. The framework I use is there's a welcome, which includes a certain, there are a few bullet points you hit with the welcome. There's a grounding, which is kind of like a warm-up question, like a gratitude, what's something, or who you're grateful for today, or it could be a breathing exercise, a meditation, whatever, something to kind of help us ground in. And then there's a sharing, which is the heart of the circle. And so depending on the circle and the trust and the respect in the space, it could be, what's something you're looking forward to, or something a little deeper, like who's someone in your life who taught you something important, about life, and what did they teach you? Or it could be, what do you know about forgiveness, and tell a story about when you forgave somebody. You
And
can start to go deep.
high
Yeah,
schoolers will do this?
yeah, yeah.
Teenagers?
It takes time. It takes. I mean, a circle like this is a tree. You plant it. It takes time to grow. It's not going to
Hmm.
be the mighty redwood for many years. It takes time to grow a culture. And so at first, the room is going to be cold, and we try to create opt-in circles so that students aren't feeling coerced or forced to be there, and that so that adults aren't feeling coerced or forced to have to. Oh, it's like I have to do this apparently, but I'm not even into this, so like I don't have buy-in, so the students aren't going to have buy-in. So we try to create opt-in spaces where trust begins to happen, and then you have a closing of just, it could be as simple as a word, but we like to close with intention.
And when the tree bears fruit,
Yeah.
assuming it's a fruit tree, what is that fruit then?
It looks different, there's so many different moments. I mean, I can share two different ends of the spectrum briefly. One would be, like I'm thinking of a circle with these kids, maybe the fourth circle. This is seventh and eighth graders, an alternative education classroom where finally, after the fourth circle, one student risks sharing about what she's dealing with at home between her parents, right? And then she paves the way for the next student to jump in, and suddenly he's sharing about what his mom is going through and how his brother committed suicide and how his mom's gone back in her addiction. And suddenly this, like, whoa, this is super, like, it's all coming out. And this is one of the reasons why I think a lot of adults are hesitant about restorative practices and restorative circles, because it's like, what if the truth, do we really want to be with each other in the truth? Like, are we ready to like field the complexities and the traumas and the intensities of what people are actually dealing with? No, button it up. Much easier to just pretend it's not here. Let's just kind of avoid it. So there are good reasons we need to be trained to catch and work with moments like that. But I would call that a fruit, folks realizing, whoa, you're going through that too, like me too. Oh my God. And here's this sanctuary space where we can be with one another and realize we're not alone. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other is, I'm thinking of a student who came to a circle or two the first year and it was very, very disruptive and disrespectful. The second year, never came to a circle, but almost always dropped in right before we started and would connect in, just pop in briefly, and then kind of, no, I'm not going to come, not going to come. And then at the end of the year, they came, and that circle happened to have, he decided he wanted to sit at a table far back, but it just so happened that 20 kids came, and so the circle expanded, had to expand, and he ended up kind of like being in it. And he was on his computer the whole time, and we've kind of had to work out like what are our boundaries there with cell phones and computers and stuff, but he was on his computer, and I felt that was okay, because it was hard for him to be there. He passed, and at the very end, the closing round was like, what's your intention for your summer? This is the last circle of the year. And it got to him, and like one word that's going to describe your summer. And it got to him, and with sincerity, he said, good. And my heart just exploded with fireworks of delight and awe that he could muster he felt safe enough to be sincere, even for just a single moment like that. That to me was a win. That was a fruit.
Andrew Forsthoefel is an author, speaker, a restorative practices consultant for Maine public schools, and his memoir is called Walking to Listen. You can also read more of his writing about his current work at littlecourtyard.substack.com. Andrew, thank you for sharing your stories today. I've really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
And thank you for getting uncomfy with us today. What do you think about vulnerability? Do you have a place in your life, or is there someone in your life with whom you can be completely and totally vulnerable? What does that mean to you? What would it look like to have more of that in your life? I'd love to hear your story. Email uncomfy@byu.edu or find us on social media to continue the conversation. We are at uncomfy.podcast on Instagram. Uncomfy is a BYU radio podcast. Samuel Benson produces it. The team includes Hyobin Kim and Sam Payne. Our theme music was composed by Kelsey Nay. I'm Julie Rose. Can't wait to get uncomfy with you again next week. Hey, Julie again. Before you go, I'm just reminding you of our special request today. There's that link to a quick survey in our show notes. If you fill it out, you might be selected to have a longer conversation with the Uncomfy team to help us figure out how to make the show even better. And if you do get selected for that longer conversation, you'll get a $25 Amazon gift card as a thank you for your time. Plus, you'll get to talk with us, which is kind of fun, right? So thank you for listening. Find that link in the show notes. And thanks especially for being part of the Uncomfy community.